Being stuck in that position for going on 23 hours now makes it very difficult for him.
On the 24th of November 2009, John Jones, 26 years old, a medical student, has taken a break from school to spend time in Utah with his pregnant wife and young daughter. John and his family, along with a group of 11, are planning a trip to the Nutty Putty cave, located near Salt Lake City and not far from where John and his family live. It was thought to be a good cave for beginners. However, a visit to this cave quickly turned into a very scary and dangerous situation. It led to a nightmare, causing one of the most unusual and arguably terrifying deaths in caving history. Nutty Putty Cave, discovered in the early 1960s, quickly became a popular spot for cavers. Each year, it attracted 25,000 visitors, drawn to its narrow, winding passages and unique clay-lined walls. The cave was famous for its challenging routes, like the birth canal and the Scout Eater, which offered adventurous experiences for those exploring its depths. However, its popularity became a topic of public concern for safety between 1999 and 2004, following several high-profile rescue missions. Many of these incidents involved individuals getting stuck in the cave's smaller, narrower passageways. Notably, a 23-year-old man was trapped for over 7 hours in an area close to where John Jones would later be found. In a separate event, a local teenager spent an entire night stuck upside down before being rescued. These incidents led to the cave's entrance being gated and closed in May 2006. For years after, local cavers clashed with authorities over the potential permanent closure of the cave. Officials warned that the cave was like a ticking time bomb, fearing it was only a matter of time before a fatality occurred. However, local spelunking groups argued that closing the cave was unfair to experienced cavers. They believed that people should be more responsible for their own safety. This debate was evident in comments and letters published in local newspapers, reflecting the community's divided opinions on the issue. In March 2009, the Nutty Putty Cave was reopened, but with new rules to make it safer. A management plan was put in place, including a system for permits and clear safety guidelines. Under this new plan, anyone who wanted to visit the cave had to get a permit first. This was to control how many people were in the cave at one time. The idea was that with fewer people, it would be safer and easier to manage. The safety guidelines were also important. They included rules about what equipment to bring, like helmets and lights, and advice on how to move safely through the cave's narrow passages. These guidelines were meant to help people be more prepared and aware of the risks. This reopening with the new management plan was an attempt to balance the desire for adventure with the need for safety, by controlling access and teaching people how to be safe. The hope was that the cave could be enjoyed without the accidents that had happened before. On November 24, 2009, a group of 11 people, including John and his brother Josh, entered the Nutty Putty Cave at 8 p.m. John and Josh, along with their friends and family, were confident and excited as they started their adventure. In the group, John and Josh had a lot of experience with caves. They had been on many caving trips in Utah, but this was their first time in the Nutty Putty Caves. For the first hour, their adventure went smoothly. The group moved through the caves, enjoying the experience and excited by what they found. Around 9 p.m., John thought he had found the entrance to a part of the cave called the birth canal. This part of the cave is very narrow and tight, just like the name suggests. John started to go into this tight passageway. He squeezed in and kept moving forward. When the path started to go down, he only stopped for a short moment. John thought the narrow space he was in might get a bit bigger further down. He believed he was in the birth canal, a tight part of the cave that he knew could be safely moved through if he stayed calm. But John was mistaken. He wasn't in the birth canal. Instead, he was moving headfirst down a tunnel that wasn't on any maps in a different area of the cave. This tunnel wasn't marked on maps because it was too small and tight. The tunnel John was crawling through got tighter and tighter, and he couldn't turn back. When he saw a small opening at the end, he kept going, hoping to find space to turn around. But this decision led to a serious problem. John had squeezed into a very narrow 10 by 18-inch gap in the rocks that went straight down. To get in, he had to breathe in deeply, which made him thinner. But once inside, when he breathed out and his chest expanded, he got stuck in a space as small as the inside of a front-loading washing machine. John tried hard to free himself, but he couldn't. He started calling for his brother, Josh. When Josh found him, he first thought they would laugh about it later. But soon, Josh realized how bad the situation was. He tried to help John, but it only made things worse. John slid further down and ended up completely upside down, with his arms pinned. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Josh told the others and left someone with John while he went to get phone signal to call for help. After calling 911, Josh returned to the cave to wait with his brother, who was still trapped. They waited for 3 hours for help to arrive. Susie Matola, a local volunteer, immediately responded to the emergency call she received on her pager. As she arrived at the scene, it was already 12:30 a.m. By then, John had been stuck for 3 hours deep in the cave, and his situation was far more serious than she had initially anticipated. Understanding the critical need to maintain John's composure, she greeted him with a reassuring tone. She confidently assured him, "You'll be out of here in no time. Don't worry." John, visibly relieved to see her, responded, "Hi, Susie. Thank you for coming. I really, really want to get out." Determined to free John, Susie employed every method she could think of. This included cutting off a portion of his jeans to create more room. Despite her relentless efforts and the passing of 2 exhausting hours, the situation remained unchanged. Realizing the need for additional assistance and resources, a weary Susie made the difficult decision to retreat to the surface. As Susie emerged from the cave, the rescue operation was escalating. A specialized team had arrived, equipped with the necessary gear and expertise for such a challenging rescue. They quickly assessed the situation and began their efforts to free John. They attached gear to John's legs and planned to pull him up. They also drilled the rocks to make more space, but it was a slow process because the cave was so narrow. The way John was stuck made it hard. They couldn't just pull him straight out. They had to move him up a bit, then adjust, and repeat. The first try with just the climbing gear didn't work, so they set up pulleys on the cave walls to help. This process was also slow, and only one rescuer could reach John at a time. Despite being stuck in a really tough spot, the team somehow lifted him a bit to change his position. Unfortunately, the first pulley system failed, and he slid back to where he started. John was going back and forth between calm and panic, so they brought a 2-way radio into the cave for him to talk to his wife. The conversation was tense, but it helped keep him calm for the next set of ropes and pulleys. After 19 long hours, a team of 8 was ready to pull him out. However, each pull was really painful for John, so they had to stop several times to avoid hurting his legs. Finally, on the 3rd pull, there was a glimmer of hope. John was lifted high enough to make eye contact with his rescuer, who later said that despite his red eyes and dirty face, John seemed okay. When the rescuer asked how he was, John replied, "It sucks. I'm upside down and I can't believe I'm upside down. My legs are killing me." Despite his complaints, there was a smile on his face. Disaster struck on what was supposed to be the 4th pull. A part of the system that was helping to hold him in position failed, and John ended up falling back into the area where he had been stuck for so long. The whole system failed, causing the entire team to fall backward. When they regained composure, they realized the worst had happened. A bolt drilled into one of the cave walls had come out, leading to part of the cave crumbling. This hit the lead rescuer in the face, causing a momentary blackout. To make matters worse, John slid back down into the crevice and became completely unresponsive. With the rescuer closest to John needing medical attention, a second lead rescuer took his place. Confirming that John was still breathing, the new rescuer somehow managed to slip a rope around John's waist, but got stuck himself, requiring help from other team members and sustaining multiple injuries. A third lead rescuer attempted a last-ditch effort to free John by drilling away the rock, but it was futile. The entire team was exhausted, and John was barely breathing and unresponsive. He had gone into cardiac arrest, and tragically, there was nothing anyone could do. At this point, John's wife Emily was informed of the situation. Though John was technically alive but unconscious, in her desperation, she believed he could still survive and continued to communicate with him through the radio in one of her final messages to John. "I know you've been pushing so hard for so long. Why don't you rest for a minute, take a break, and then you can push again?" At this important moment, even though they couldn't say for sure, the rescuers had a strong feeling that something really bad had happened. To check, a paramedic went down into the cave to feel John's pulse. It was like a crucial test to see if their worst fears were true. Sadly, the test confirmed what they were afraid of. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25, 2009, after 28 hours of being stuck, John Edward Jones was pronounced dead. Up on the surface, John's wife, Emily, couldn't believe that a small mistake could lead to such a big tragedy. It was really hard for her to accept that a pulse taken from John's leg could mean he was gone. To respect John and keep everyone safe, they sealed the cave's entrance with concrete, leaving John inside forever. As a way to remember John, his family put up a plaque at the entrance of the cave, turning it into a place that honored his memory, but also held the weight of a difficult and tragic story.